Society has woven a narrative that a man's worth is tied to his romantic relationships, that if he stands alone, he is somehow incomplete, as if solitude is a mark of failure rather than a position of strength. But let's challenge that notion, because a man who lives alone, without a girlfriend, has the potential to build something far greater than fleeting companionship. He has the power to master himself, his mind, and his direction in life. Solitude is a state that many fear, yet it is the foundation upon which true mastery is built. To be alone is not to be abandoned, nor is it a sign of weakness. It is an opportunity, a rare and powerful condition that allows a man to confront himself fully. In a world that constantly demands attention, validation, and conformity, the ability to embrace solitude is a mark of strength, not deficiency. It is in these quiet moments that a man comes face to face with who he truly is, stripped of external expectations and distractions. A man who has not learned to be alone is a man who does not yet understand himself. Many seek companionship out of fear, using relationships, friendships, and social obligations as a shield against their own thoughts. They surround themselves with noise because silence forces them to confront the deeper questions. Who am I? What do I truly want? What is my purpose? A man who fears these questions remains a prisoner to the opinions and expectations of others, forever seeking direction outside himself rather than forging his own path. Mastery begins with self-awareness, and self-awareness requires isolation. The great minds of history, philosophers, warriors, inventors, and visionaries, were not men constantly lost in the chatter of the world. They withdrew, they reflected, they allowed themselves the space to think deeply and act with intention. Solitude forces a man to develop the discipline to structure his own life, to create order from within rather than seeking it externally. Without this process, a man is not truly independent because his sense of self is still tethered to those around him. The modern world does not encourage solitude because a man who is content alone is a man who cannot be easily manipulated. He does not seek validation through social media. He does not fear missing out, and he does not base his worth on the fleeting approval of others. He moves with purpose, knowing that his value is not dependent on external praise. He does not chase relationships out of loneliness, but rather chooses them with discernment, ensuring that those who enter his life align with his purpose rather than distracting from it. Solitude is the testing ground for mental fortitude. It is easy to rely on others for emotional stability, to always have a shoulder to lean on, to use companionship as a means of avoiding discomfort. But a man who can endure solitude, who can sit in his own company without unease, has developed a level of resilience that few possess. He has learned to be his own source of strength, and because of that, he does not crumble when life inevitably presents him with hardship, rejection, or loss. It is through solitude that a man refines his vision. When constantly surrounded by people, there is a temptation to conform, to adjust one's goals and ambitions based on external influences. But in solitude, there is no one to impress, no one to please, no one to steer him off course. It is in this space that he can ask himself what he truly desires, not what society expects, not what his family pressures him to pursue, but what he, at his core, is drawn toward. This clarity is what allows him to move forward with conviction, unshaken by the shifting opinions of the world. A man who has mastered solitude does not seek relationships out of desperation. He does not need someone to fill a void because he has already filled it himself. This makes him dangerous in the best possible way. He cannot be manipulated through fear of loneliness. He does not settle for less than he deserves, and he does not waste energy on relationships that drain him rather than elevate him. He becomes a man of choice rather than necessity, attracting people through his strength rather than begging for companionship. Time spent alone is not wasted time, it is invested time. It is the period in which skills are honed, knowledge is acquired, and mental resilience is built. It is where discipline is developed, where habits are reinforced, and where progress is made without the distractions of the outside world. A man who uses his solitude wisely emerges from it sharper, stronger, and more capable than those who fear being alone and instead cling to the comfort of constant company. The ability to master solitude is the ability to master one's emotion. When a man is alone, he has no one to blame for his failures, no one to project his insecurities onto, no one to distract him from his weaknesses. This forces him to take full responsibility for his state of mind, to develop emotional stability, and to cultivate the inner strength that allows him to remain unfazed by external chaos. He does not rely on others to regulate his emotions because he has built an internal structure that keeps him grounded. A man who embraces solitude walks through the world with a quiet confidence. He does not need to prove himself through empty displays of social dominance or superficial relationships. His strength is evident in his composure, his clarity, and his ability to stand alone without wavering. He does not fear being without a crowd because he has already conquered the one challenge most men avoid, the challenge of facing himself completely. A man who stands alone is a man who faces no distractions from his purpose. In a world filled with endless noise, obligations, and competing demands, solitude offers an unmatched clarity. It is in this space, free from external expectations and unnecessary diversions, that a man can dedicate himself fully to his mission. Without the constant pull of social obligations, fleeting relationships, or meaningless interactions, he can focus entirely on becoming the strongest, most capable version of himself. When a man is surrounded by people, he is constantly pulled in multiple directions. The opinions of friends, family, and acquaintances create a web of expectations that can dilute his focus. He is expected to conform, to compromise, to adjust his ambitions in ways that suit others rather than himself. But a man who walks alone does not have to seek approval or validation. His time is his own, his goals are his own, and his progress is dictated only by his discipline and drive. Distractions are the enemy of greatness. Every time a man allows himself to be sidetracked by trivial concerns, he delays his progress. Social obligations, unnecessary drama, and shallow relationships consume the very energy that should be directed toward his purpose. A man who is truly alone does not waste time seeking validation from others. He does not waste energy on meaningless conversations. Every ounce of his focus is channeled toward the things that matter: his craft, his mind, his body, and his vision. Solitude is the breeding ground for mastery. The greatest men in history, philosophers, warriors, inventors, and leaders, were not men who spent their days entangled in trivial distractions. They withdrew, they focused, they allowed themselves the silence necessary to think deeply, to train relentlessly, and to pursue their goals without interference. It is in isolation that a man sharpens his mind, perfects his skills, and builds the kind of discipline that sets him apart from the rest. A man who is alone has complete ownership of his time. He is not obligated to entertain others, to engage in fruitless debates, or to cater to the emotions of those who do not contribute to his growth. Every second of his life is a decision. Will he waste it, or will he use it to build something meaningful? While others are caught up in distractions, he is refining his vision, eliminating weakness, and preparing himself for the battles ahead. The absence of distractions forces a man to become self-sufficient. He does not rely on others to motivate him, to hold him accountable, or to push him forward. He learns to be his own source of strength, his own guide, and his own master. This level of independence creates a rare kind of power, the kind that makes him unshakable in the face of adversity, immune to manipulation, and completely in control of his own destiny. Being alone does not mean being idle. On the contrary, it means dedicating every moment to something that matters. It means spending hours training the body, expanding the mind, and mastering the skills necessary to achieve great things. It means cutting out anything that does not serve his purpose, be it unnecessary entertainment, shallow social interactions, or external expectations that do not align with his mission. Solitude eliminates the excuse of external distractions. There is no one to blame for failure, no one to point to as the reason for stagnation. The only thing that stands between a man and his potential is himself. This is a terrifying realization for many, but for those who embrace it, it is the key to unstoppable progress. There are no shortcuts, no easy paths, no magic solutions, only relentless effort and unwavering commitment to the goal. A man who has freed himself from distractions is a man who operates at a higher level than the rest. His focus is sharp, his actions are deliberate, and his path is clear. While others waste their days in mindless pursuits, he builds. While others drown in meaningless conversations, he strategizes. While others seek fleeting pleasures, he pursues excellence. Every moment of solitude is an opportunity to grow stronger, to sharpen his mind, and to bring himself closer to his ultimate vision. When a man walks alone, he is tested in ways that others will never understand. He faces himself completely with no excuses and no safety nets. In doing so, he forges a level of self-discipline, mental resilience, and clarity of purpose that sets him apart. Without distractions, without unnecessary attachments, without external interference, he becomes unstoppable in his pursuit of greatness. A man who enters a relationship out of necessity rather than choice surrenders his independence before he even begins. If he believes he must be with someone to feel complete, he has already weakened himself. True strength comes from knowing that a relationship is an addition to his life, not the foundation of it. When a man operates from a place of need, he compromises his standards, bends his will, and loses sight of his own path, all for the sake of avoiding loneliness. When relationships become a need rather than a choice, desperation takes over. A man who is desperate will tolerate treatment he does not deserve, accept conditions that do not align with his values, and endure emotional instability just to maintain the illusion of connection. He trades his self-respect for companionship, failing to see that a relationship built on fear of solitude is doomed from the start. A man who knows his worth never allows himself to settle for less than he deserves. Emotional dependence erodes a man's ability to think clearly and act decisively. When he feels he cannot function without someone by his side, he sacrifices his own power. His moods become dictated by another person's approval, his self-esteem tied to their validation. This is not a position of strength. It is a form of self-imposed servitude. A man must build himself into someone who chooses a relationship from a place of strength, not someone who clings to it from a place of fear. A relationship should complement a man's life, not consume it. If he has no identity outside of his partnership, he loses himself. His ambitions become secondary, his individuality fades, and he becomes dependent on another person for his sense of purpose. A man who values himself first ensures that his relationship is built on mutual respect, not on an unhealthy attachment that stifles his growth and weakens his resolve. A man who is whole by himself is the only one truly capable of building a strong relationship. He does not seek validation from his partner, nor does he need constant reassurance to feel secure. He stands firm in his own identity, making him a stable presence rather than an emotional burden. This is the kind of man who attracts respect, admiration, and deep connection, not out of need, but out of choice. His relationships thrive because they are built on strength, not dependence. The ability to walk away is what keeps a man in control of his own life. If he believes he cannot live without someone, he hands over his power. He tolerates behavior he should reject. He allows disrespect where there should be boundaries, and he loses himself in the process. A man who chooses a relationship must also be willing to leave it if it no longer aligns with his values. His strength is in knowing that his life does not depend on another person's presence. Self-sufficiency is the foundation of true partnership. A man who does not rely on his partner for emotional stability, financial security, or personal fulfillment is a man who brings value to the table rather than taking from it. He is not a burden, he is an asset. His presence is a conscious decision, not a desperate need, and this makes him far more desirable than a man who clings out of fear of being alone. When a man realizes he does not need a relationship to be complete, he gains an unmatched sense of freedom. He is no longer driven by insecurity or the fear of solitude. He is driven by purpose, ambition, and self-mastery. From this place of strength, he is capable of forming a connection that is meaningful, rather than one that merely serves as an emotional crutch. A relationship chosen from strength is one that is built to last. A relationship should never be the defining factor of a man's worth. He must define himself first through his discipline, his achievements, and his principles. Only then can he enter a relationship as an equal, rather than as someone seeking completion through another person. A man who has built himself does not enter relationships out of need. He does so because he wants to, on his own terms, with someone who adds value to his already fulfilled life. The strongest men do not chase relationships to fill a void. They build lives so full that relationships become a meaningful addition rather than a desperate requirement. They cultivate their minds, bodies, and ambitions first. When a relationship is no longer a necessity, it becomes a choice made with wisdom, discernment, and clarity, ensuring that the connection is built on mutual respect rather than emotional dependence. A man who stands alone has the rarest advantage of all. time undisturbed, energy undivided, and focus unshaken. Without the distractions of unnecessary relationships, he can dedicate himself fully to his own growth. He does not have to compromise his ambition, adjust his priorities, or water down his vision to accommodate anyone else. Every moment is his to refine his mind, sharpen his skills, and fortify his body against weakness. Solitude forces a man to confront himself. There is no external validation, no one to prop up his self-esteem, and no distractions to mask his inadequacies. He must look in the mirror and see exactly what he is, without excuses. This is the birthplace of transformation. A man who accepts this challenge does not waste time in self-pity. He builds, he adapts, and he becomes something greater than what he was yesterday. Without the weight of compromise, a man is free to move in any direction he chooses. He is not slowed down by obligations that do not serve him, nor is he bound by the expectations of others. He decides his path with absolute clarity. His goals are not diluted by the influence of those who do not share his vision. He alone sets the course, and he alone reaps the rewards of his discipline. Isolation breeds mastery. A man who devotes himself to his craft without distraction rises above the competition. While others waste time in meaningless distractions, he is refining his skills, expanding his knowledge, and sharpening his mind. He does not seek approval. He seeks dominance in his field. This is how legends are made, not through mindless socialization, but through relentless dedication to improvement. A man who embraces solitude does not waste energy on validation. He does not shape his identity based on what others think of him. His value is determined by his actions, his discipline, and his achievements. He moves with confidence, knowing that his worth is not dependent on external approval. This self-reliance makes him untouchable, immune to manipulation, and completely in control of his own destiny. Strength is built in silence. A man who walks alone learns to carry his burdens without complaint, to push through adversity without seeking sympathy, and to endure hardships without looking for a hand to hold. This process hardens him, making him more resilient than those who rely on constant emotional support. He becomes the man who stands unshaken while others falter under pressure. Discipline is the foundation of an unstoppable man. Without distractions, he has no excuses to avoid the work that must be done. He does not allow comfort to soften him, nor does he let complacency take root. Every day is an opportunity to build himself stronger, faster, and sharper. He does not wait for motivation. He operates on discipline alone, and this consistency sets him apart from the weak and the uncommitted. A man who stands alone is not swayed by the emotions of others. He does not allow drama, insecurity, or external chaos to disrupt his inner stability. His focus is unbreakable. He moves with purpose, unburdened by the petty distractions that consume the minds of the undisciplined. He is a force of nature, unshaken by temporary setbacks or the opinions of those who do not walk his path. True freedom belongs to the man who is not dependent on anyone. He does not seek approval, companionship, or reassurance to validate his existence. His identity is not tied to a relationship, a group, or a social status. He is complete in himself, and because of this, he operates with a level of independence and power that few will ever understand. This kind of freedom is terrifying to those who have never stood on their own. When a man fully embraces his solitude, he stops chasing and starts building. He builds his body into a weapon, his mind into an unshakable fortress, and his life into something extraordinary. He is not distracted by fleeting pleasures, nor is he held back by those who do not share his vision. He becomes something unstoppable, something untouchable, something that commands respect without ever needing to demand it.